Tashdile. This is Sakina Bhatt and welcome to Tibet This Week, a weekly news on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's look at the headlines first. His Holiness the Dalai Lama meets with a delegation of Indian scholars. His Holiness the Dalai Lama mourns the passing of Lingayat head Shiva Kumaraswamy. Arrested for celebrating His Holiness the Dalai Lama's birthday, Tibetan monk released due to critical health condition. Tibetans forced to prostrate to Xi Jinping's pictures, religious repression in Tibet accelerates. Tibetans sentenced in central Tibet in 2018 on alleged charges of inciting separatism. China used a nationwide anti-crime campaign to denounce Dalai Lama sympathizers, says the Human Rights Watch. His Holiness the Dalai Lama interacted with a delegation of Indian scholars at his residence in Dharamshala on Thursday this week. His Holiness spoke on the revival of ancient Indian understanding of the mind and emotions in modern India, calling it the contribution that Tibetans can make.
The latest my commitment is try to revival of this ancient Indian knowledge in modern India through education, not through puja. and some color put here, of course, part of the culture, but real culture is knowledge here. Knowledge here. That is India's culture.
The Indian delegation is currently participating in a 3-day conference on Tibetan studies organized by the Tibet Policy Institute of Central Tibetan Administration.
I would say that since my topic was on India's stand on Tibet policy and middle way approach, so His Holiness has stated that since according to Chinese history in 7th, 8th and 9th century, there existed three different nations in Tibet, China and Mongolia. Now it's in the interest of 6 million Tibet to stay within the People's Republic of China.
This was a lifetime experience for me because we always thought of, we saw him in TV and we thought of meeting him or actually seeing him or at least have a glimpse of him. And today we had a personal audience with him, so it was something that we will be taking back home.
Chief guest Colonel Dr. Pema Yangchen of Department of Education in CTA inaugurated the first conference of young Indian scholars on Tibetan studies being held at the College of Higher Tibetan Studies in Dharamshala from 22nd to 24th January. The conference was attended by 22 participants comprising of professors, assistant professors, PhD and MPhil from 13 different universities and institutes of India. 3-day conference with 7 interesting and interactive themes ranging from a bond between India and Tibet to Tibet in diaspora imagination were discussed. On Wednesday this week, His Holiness the Dalai Lama expressed his condolences to the followers of Dr. Shri Shiva Kumaraswamy, who passed away at the vulnerable age of 111. The Tibetan spiritual leader said that he admired Shiva Kumaraswamy's dedicated service for the benefit of the poor, especially the many educational institutions Swamiji set up for them. His Holiness further noted that Swamiji's long and meaningful life was an inspiration to others. Chokkye, a Tibetan monk from Phughu Monastery, Serda, from Sichuan province, arrested in 2015 for celebrating His Holiness the Dalai Lama's 80th birthday, was released due to his critical health condition. Before his detention, Chokkye was suffering from kidney ailment and other health-related issues. His life in prison made his condition even worse. There has been wide international call for his immediate release and medical attention. The European Parliament had adopted a resolution on 18 January 2018 inter alia calling the Chinese authorities for the immediate and unconditional release of Chokkye and urged the Chinese government to allow his relatives and the lawyers of his choice to visit him and in particular to provide him with adequate medical care. Chokkye's house is under constant surveillance. Security officials can be seen holding cameras to take pictures of the people visiting him. A recent report from Tibet revealed that China seems to be accelerating the curb on religious expression and activities. As confirmed by a source, Tibetans in Serda County, incorporated into China's Sichuan province, are forced to remove portraits of His Holiness the Dalai Lama from their altars. They are compelled to display pictures of Chinese leaders, including Xi Jinping, and to prostrate and make offerings instead. Other reports earlier in the month likewise indicated the Chinese government's continuation of repression and further deterioration of the situation of human rights in Tibet. Last week, UN and human rights desks at DIIR reported on local Chinese authorities issuing of order banning Tibetan students and civil servants from engaging in any kinds of religious activities. According to the state mouthpiece Global Times, in 2018, China has sentenced 25 Tibetans in the central Tibet, the so-called Tibet Autonomous Region, under charges of what the Chinese refer to as inciting separatism and endangering national security. Announcing his work report to the Regional Party Congress, TAR chairman Shri said, Tibet has firmly curbed and cracked down on secession, infiltration and sabotage activities by the hostile forces at home and abroad. In February 2018, the Public Security Bureau of TAR issued a circular listing 22 illegal activities, 3 of which directly mentioned the Dalai clique and hostile foreign forces. One example is the well-known case of Tashi Wangchuk, the Tibetan language rights advocate who expressed his opinion about the Tibetan people's right to their language, for which he was sentenced to 5 years on the charges of inciting separatism by the Shanghai court. In central Tibet, or the Tibet Autonomous Region, protests against the communist government's policies erupted despite rigid monitoring and constant watch by the security personnel. The concern is that the actual number of Tibetans sentenced in the past year would definitely be higher than the Chinese authorities' claims. Chinese authorities have launched a nationwide anti-crime campaign to encourage people to denounce members of their communities on the slightest suspicion of sympathy for the exiled Dalai Lama, says the Human Rights Watch in its annual report. The same campaign is used against individuals who oppose the repressive policies of the Chinese Communist Party. Intensified political education has been implemented in Tibetan Buddhist monasteries, schools, and in the public discourse with the aim of indoctrinating Tibetans to ensure loyalty to the CCP and weakening the Dalai Lama's influence, says the Human Rights Watch. The annual report further notes that several hundred Tibetans from Tibet who legally travelled to India in January 2017 to attend the Kala Chakra teachings by His Holiness were forced to return and had their passports confiscated upon returning. In an August 2018 joint communication, UN experts expressed serious concern over the passport seizures and the failure to reissue passports to Tibetans. The experts also condemned the unreasonable search, interrogation, arrest and detention of Tibetans in relation to the passport system and travel for religious purposes. China continues to damage Tibet's fragile environment and allow mining of mountains that Tibetans consider sacred. Local Tibetans' growing resentment on Chinese rule is that the Communist Party has imposed a life in which Tibetans are supposed to have forgotten their culture, identity, religion, and everything that makes them Tibetans. So much for this week. See you next time and have a great weekend.